Hello, loves. Magical people. I am here to talk to you today about artificial intelligence. And I myself am a nerd about technology, so I am going to get a little into what technology can do for your magical practice, how beneficial technology is for connecting us, not only as witches, but connecting us to ourselves. I am going to wax poetic about my love for technology, but I'm also going to talk about the dangers that artificial intelligence poses when it comes to our self-development and to the development of our practice and to our psyche as a collective consciousness. Because collective consciousness is such a big part of my work, I am going to start there. If you practice glamour magic, if you practice manifestation, if you practice dream work, then you are working with perception. You're working with your own perception, and you're working with the perception of the people that are in the same sphere of consciousness on this globe. All of us all around the world share a dream world. We share a perceptual reality. Our perception of reality is based on our consensual agreement to project and perceive, right? This is a little bit of Joseph Campbell, if that's a philosopher or a psychologist that you're interested in. Love his ideas about symbology. And if you're someone who is interested in glamour magic, manifestation, or dream work, then you know that how people see things, including yourself, is going to play a big role in the outcomes for that work. If you are trying to see yourself as beautiful, if you are trying to get other people to see you as beautiful, magical, mysterious, magnetic, then the idea of magnetism and magic and beauty in the world around us, in the zeitgeist, is going to be a really big part of that. And I bring glamour magic up specifically because it's a really easy example of us using the global perception. And I think that when people are using artificial intelligence, they are not thinking about the global impact. Yes, it is bad for the environment. I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not going to talk about that specifically, but I do want to name that that's a huge issue that the anti-AI community has with artificial intelligence. That I'm not an expert in. The realm of the magic, the realm of the mysterious, the realm of the unseen in our collective psyche, that's something that I consider myself an expert in. And I can tell you that when you are training people to see an AI image of human beings as beauty, that means like without little pimples, that means without little hairs around your forehead, that means without any cellulite, without any of the human imperfections that make human beings so unique and so beautiful. When you start to train that out of the collective consciousness, you have just thwarted your own glamour magic. You have just thwarted your own manifestation of a beautiful reality. Now, that's the example I'm starting with. We're not going to stay on beauty too much because it's just such a small piece of what our collective consciousness is capable of producing. But beauty is a big one because it's really powerful in our culture because of class. We live in a capitalist system here in the United States, and we've exported a lot of our capitalist imperialism around the world. So beauty is a big one because beauty is something you can buy. And if you can't buy it, then you have to generate it in some other way. It's a big way to get us to spend our money, compare our bodies to something, distract us from changing the world. Beauty is a big one. But it also reminds me of when filters started becoming popular. Now there's a big backlash against filters. There's a lot of people that are using no filter specifically because of what it did to our collective psyche at the time, what it did to our women and girls, what it did to the porn industry. It's rough out here for people to love themselves as they are, no matter how they look. And it's really beneficial for you to not love yourself. This is conspiratorial, I have to say, because I believe that there is a massive psychic conspiracy around draining us of our magical energy, disempowering us so that we don't fight back against oppressive systems in the way that we historically are able to, which is through our personal power and our personal connection to one another. So let's move on to connection. And this is a part that's really personal to me, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I don't want my personal bitterness to taint the energy. But I will say I am an artist. I am a creator. I'm a digital artist. I'm a web designer. I'm a content writer. I started writing content for the internet for money when I was 14 years old. And it is the money from being a content writer that young that helped me run away from home. I lived in a really effed up situation. And my hard work as a self-taught artist is what got me out of it. So it's very close to home to me that there is a place on the internet for mediocre content, for content that is not perfect or impeccable. And there's a room in the world for art that is imperfect, that doesn't look exactly how we want it to. There's room in the world for art that is not polished, that is not filtered, that has no acne, no hair, right? There is room in this universe for all of the imperfections. If we wanted perfection, we'd go back to heaven, right? What we do when we're chasing immediate art, immediate content that we don't have to think too hard about, is we are trying to remove the human condition that we came here to experience as spiritual beings. Okay? If I were in heaven right now, not that I believe in heaven like a big man with a beard and a place in the clouds, but if I were on the other side, if I were part of the ethereal realm, I could think of something and make it manifest. I could generate a hallucination. I could see it pop up before me. Whether or not I could touch or use it to manipulate reality, jury's still out on that. I haven't been back to the ether world in a long time, so I do not recall, Your Honor. However, I know that part of the human condition is wanting something and not having it immediately. So many spiritual disciplines talk about this. And if you are a spiritual person who wants your soul to maximize its potential here, if you are here to experience the human condition and have it be a part of your experience, then bypassing the moments between what you want and what you have, it's cheating a little bit, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. It's cheating. That's all I'm going to say. And then what you do is you separate yourself from the connection to artists that could make that thing for you. I hear so many people say that they're not creative or that they're not an artist. That's a trauma response. Everyone is creative. Everyone is an artist. And people like me who have had insecure housing, who have had to think creatively their entire lives against their will because they have ADHD and autism, people like me who have physical disabilities, who can't stand for very long and find it really hard to work a full-time job because of their disabilities. People like us happen to have taken the innate creativity that is within every single divine human being and honed it into a skill that could benefit you. I do a lot of art for my friends for free. I do a lot of art for my friends for money. I do a lot of art for my friends in exchange for things, for trade. That's the most common way that art happens in my life. That extends sometimes to web design, sales copy, blog posts, stuff like that. Now, if you're someone who actually did this for a living, you know that we were replaced by AI a long time ago. The niche way that we fit into the capitalist projection onto the internet, which I'm going to talk about that later, the way that we fit into that has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller by design, because it's hard to tax us, it's hard to fine us, it's hard to figure out how to extract labor from us when we have that small amount of independence that being a digital creator gives to us. That small amount of independence in a system that only wants you to be doing labor that benefits the hierarchy, the billionaires, the systems of oppression. The independence that you get as an artist is a huge threat to that. So that's why our place as artists in the digital sphere has been getting smaller and smaller, because before authoritarianism came into our government, it was in the internet for a long time. Fun fact. That's for the conspiracy podcast if you're interested. Now, to get back to the connection piece about what it's like to ask your friend for art, wait for the art to get to you. Ask for changes if you need to. Experience the idea, if you will. I know it's scary now because we're so used to instant gratification, of thinking about what you want instead of just constantly throwing what you want at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? This is, by definition, spiritual bypassing. When we think of spiritual bypassing, we're sometimes thinking of like, oh, I'm not meditating, I'm not integrating my psychedelics, I'm not actually being in community with people that make me stronger and hold me accountable. We think of those things as spiritual bypassing. In the scope of technology, which I really encourage you to familiarize yourself with, if AI is super exciting to you, please get into technology and not social media. This idea that we can skip over the steps of the struggle that it is to take what is in our mind and put it in the world, which is the function of human magic. It is the reason we are capable of witchcraft at all. It is the paranormal element of human beings, to be able to take what's in our head and communicate it to others and create it in reality. It is the planting of the seed. It is the purpose of the human psyche. Artificial intelligence is a shortcut between those two things. And what happens between those two things, like any polarity, let's talk about the polarity of nothing and something. Okay? Polarity is a huge part of my practice as well, because you're essentially using the magnets that exist in our energy fields, and you're using the energy that gets created when you pull them apart. That's why people often get confused about this world being ones and zeros, like in the Matrix. It's close. But the 1 and the 0 are the on and off switch. And Douglas Rushkoff actually talks about this. There's a great interview with Douglas Rushkoff and Duncan Trussell. Great entry point into technology as a magical practice. Nothing and something are the polarities. And between those polarities, there are all of these points of magic. Just like between masculine and feminine, just like between light and dark. Does the sun blink on at the beginning of the day and then blink off at the end of the night? No. Does the moon pop out of the darkness and then pop back in when it's daytime? No. That's not how the universe works. The spectrum between nothing and something is this. It's where we live. That's how we exist as human beings. And it's between these two pillars, like in the High Priestess card, between these two pillars, that we create magic, that we put our will and we see what happens with it. We are experimenting with the machines of our magic. Okay? Now, if we're going to talk about tarot cards, which I can't stop myself, we can think of AI as the Hierophant. Because the Hierophant is someone who claims to have a bridge between one polarity and another. The Hierophant in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is claiming to have a bridge between earth and heaven, the material realm and the ethereal realm, the existence of matter and the existence of energy. That's what the Hierophant claims. Okay? The symbology of that in the deck is the Pope, which, rest in peace. We're dealing with a lot of Pope stuff right now. We're dealing with a lot of Hierophant stuff right now. So AI is claiming to have a bridge between two polarities, and those polarities are nothing and something. The Pope, AI, says to you, hey, if you give your prayer to me, I'll go into this large language model and I will find what you desire and I'll bring it back to you. If you give me money, if you give me a petition, I'll take away your sins. I'll make sure you get to heaven, right? This relationship with certainty that we have as human beings is also a big part of the human condition, and so many of the mistakes that we make as a collective consciousness are because we desire certainty. We don't want to ask someone to make us a poster and then get the poster back and it's not exactly what we wanted. What that is, sorry if my phone's vibrating the microphone. What that is when we're saying that we want exactly what we want is that we don't want another human being to be involved. That's what actually getting exactly what you want means. It means that there's not going to be another creative person. There's not going to be a community of people. There's not going to be any interaction between me and another person so that I can purely have my own expression. That toxic individualism is at the root of why we resent artists. We want to get exactly what we're imagining in our head out. Some artists can do that. Many artists are on a quest to do that. What being an artist means is that you have accepted the quest of forever trying to get what is inside of your imagination out of you in a way that other people can understand it clearly. And what you accept as an artist is that that experience will always be imperfect. You accept that you were truly never completely understood. And that is why artists are tortured, because they know that. And that is why people who don't consider themselves artists have an easier time pretending that that reality does not exist. They can pretend that there is a world in which they can be fully understood, and they chase it in all of these different ways that are not art, and often it comes out as toxicity, or it creates toxicity within them. The practice of artistry and creativity is spiritual, whether it's looking good or not to a capitalist paradigm. Okay? I am going to end on this, which is a little bit of the technology and capitalism stuff. Something that I've been learning and saying in these conversations about artificial intelligence is that it is not really possible to denounce AI without also denouncing capitalism. I also want to talk about how AI can be used positively. Okay? I don't inherently think that AI is evil. I think that we are in a time where convenience is so valuable. Our time has been colonized I know some of you are going to get triggered by this. If it hurts your feelings or it triggers you, just pretend you didn't hear it. Okay? Our time has been colonized by the white supremacist patriarchy. If that's hard for you to understand or to accept, what you can also know about the white supremacist patriarchy is that it is a trauma response. The reason that there is a system of people oppressing us is because there is an echo of early colonization and genocides that is reverberating through our collective consciousness right now. And our inability to turn around and face it, our desire to run away from it as a collective consciousness, is what is creating these systems of oppression. It isn't white men. It isn't an economic system of free trade. That's not what we mean when we say that. Okay? Open up your mind a little. Read a fucking book about mysticism. Okay? Read some magical fiction or something. Because these systems are trauma response that is reverberating through our collective consciousness. And you can feel it no matter where you are in the world because you're alive during this time. Okay? It creates such a value on convenience because all we are trying to do is get our time back. That is what this whole era is about, is trying to reclaim our time. AI sells us the idea that we can reclaim our time by removing human components and removing human error. This is not the first time that has happened in our relationship with technology. It will not be the last. Automation and AI are not the same thing. There are benefits to automation and there are benefits to AI. Medical applications for AI are awesome. Experimenting with AI and quantum computing, I think, would be really valuable, but not necessarily something to make economic or health or government decisions on. Using artificial intelligence as a means of experimentation, if we are able to compensate and give credit to the artists and writers and creators that the AI is being trained on. What AI does is it removes the trail of things that it has gathered information from so that we have no way to compensate the artists and the writers that it is learning from. And we also have no way to know if that thing that the artificial intelligence is saying about, let's say, like Mexican immigrants, we have no way of knowing if the artificial intelligence is saying that because they read it from a law book, because the little robots in the AI machine read it from a court case, the little machines in the AI read it from a neo-Nazi Reddit post. Okay? There is no way of going back and seeing where that information came from. There's no transparency around it. It is designed to take in a huge amount of data and quote unquote make choices about it. That threatens us as researchers. We try very, very, very hard to interpret and understand sources for the context that they were created in, especially when it comes to things like law and human rights. Religion is a big one. If you start espousing a religious truth and you don't understand what context that religious truth developed in, right? Is it the original source text? Is it an ideation that the AI is making about a culture based on internet posts? Our relationship to truth is so fragile in these times. The search for truth and the search for playfulness and the search for mental health support, the search for art to fill our brilliant lives, promote our events, create our self-expression, these quests deserve our time. They do not deserve a shortcut. But you know what doesn't deserve our time? Endless, backbreaking, constant labor and endless, mindless, hypnotic consumption. And if the tech industry had its way, we would be laboring and spending money. And that's it. That is the world that system is trying to create. And that is a world that AI is very excited about. Because your creativity, the time that you spend with other people, the time that you spend thinking and imagining and ideating, can be colonized by working in a way that you never see the benefit of and consuming in a way that it eventually harms you and the environment. I just made a TikTok recently comparing AI to plastic for that reason. The playbook of the tech industry under capitalism is to give you a very low threshold toy to play with and then jack up the price once we are dependent on it as a society. And artists can see that this technology is dehumanizing because artists are very connected to their humanity. And we are telling you that this dehumanization does not stop with artists. It's coming for everyone. It's coming for our culture. It is coming for our truth. It is coming for our magic and our manifestation. And we have a moment right now, unlike any other moment in the evolution of technology so far, where we can decide to consent to it and how we consent to it. This is Libra. This is Venus. This is what is important and valuable to us and how we feel it in our body. It's like a huge magical opportunity to come together as a collective. And I really don't want to see it pass us by. I don't want to see people just tune out and say, I'm going to use AI, fuck you. I really don't want to see that. But as I see it, what I would really love to see is people starting to change their relationship with their creativity and with their self and with their time. Quitting their jobs, moving in with their friends, and starting a garden, even if they don't have enough bedrooms, so that not everybody is working 10-hour, 12-hour days, right? Tree houses on unclaimed land. These are the things that reclaim our time, not a computer. And it's heartbreaking to say that because, I love technology and it is a huge part of my practice. I don't want to denounce technology as a whole. But if we let technology continue to colonize us, then much like many of our government systems, no matter how beneficial they could be if they were used correctly, we may have to walk away from them because they become a tool of oppression, because they are led and used by oppressive people who see an opportunity for power and money and have no eyes for humanity. Now, briefly before I go, I know I said last point, but I want to talk about your imagination. This is something I wrote about in my witchcraft course. Your imagination is how you create your own reality, the things that you imagine. Which we actually kind of touched on this with glamour magic, but we were talking about the collective consciousness, how everybody perceives things. How you perceive things, that's the reality you create, okay? So in early psychic development, in early witchcraft practices, there's a common instruction to look at a space around you, close your eyes, and then reimagine that space piece by piece. The reason we do that when we're trying to develop our psychic abilities is because our imagination has a metaphysical connection with matter. And when we are able to harness that metaphysical connection with matter through the power of our imagination, we can manifest, read minds, talk to ghosts, see the future. We have all of these paranormal abilities that we can access when we channel that thing in our psyche that creates this imaginal realm. It is the door to the dream world. what we do is we go into that doorway and we start to discern what is possible, what is not possible, what is real, what is not real, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, right? So we go into the depths. We go into the 12th house if you're thinking about astrology. We go into the death card if you're thinking about tarot. We go into this darkness, this imagination, and then we start thinking about discernment and organization. And those two things together are what creates a psychic practice and a magical practice. So if you atrophy your imagination by putting all of your ideas into AI instead of putting all of your ideas back into your magical machine, then this psychic ability will also atrophy. This psychic development will also atrophy. This creativity that many people associate with creating art, but is not just about creating art, it's about creating your experience of the world. It's about creating your connection with the birds and the sunlight and the leaves. It's about those moments when you spend time in nature and nature starts talking to you about how to heal your trauma. Something that is so valuable to healing the collective consciousness in the world. Those are the things that we take away from ourselves when we walk on crutches, even if our legs aren't broken. Which speaks to me because my legs are pretty fucking broken, but... So I'll go ahead and end there. I think that that's really kind of an overview of my thoughts on it as a magical practitioner that uses technology a lot in my practice. Randomization is a big part, etymology, the access to the information of the world. I just don't think that a large language model that is hallucinating is the same thing as the technology that has been bringing magic to the forefront of our consciousness for so long. So I would love to answer questions. I would love to keep talking about the relationship between artificial intelligence and magic, because spirituality is really threatened right now. I'm not like a spiritual warfare kind of gal, but our connection to our soul is at risk with all of the things that are happening in this world. Not just the AI, but the AI is such a specific manifestation of it. So let's keep talking about it. Thank you for hearing me out. I really do appreciate that. I appreciate you hearing out a minority opinion in a wave of sheep. It makes a difference even if you don't agree. Bye.